In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are.
Welcome to Be the Wellness Podcast, where we help you master your body, mind, and the experience of life through insightful conversation, interviews with experts and thought leaders, all with a side of marital banter and some good old-fashioned humor.
Yes, we are your hosts, Adam and Vanessa Lambert, and we're committed to helping you live life fully expressed physically, mentally, and experientially. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation.
Hello, everybody. Adam and Vanessa Lambert back at you with another fantastic episode.
Absolutely. Super fantastic episode.
Super.
And a lengthy one, so get ready.
Yeah, buckle in.
Yeah, we go on quite a journey on this episode.
Indeed. Several dimensions
Yeah.
in a couple of hours.
In a couple hours.
Some of this is definitely handled in the fourth dimension.
And maybe even the fifth. So we had the pleasure of sitting down with Shaman Durek a couple of months ago, actually. Last time we were in LA, as we've been sheltering in place up here in Northern California.
Yeah.
But the last time we were down there, we were able to do this podcast in person. And, you know, we love doing podcasts in person because it always just gives, I don't know, the energy of doing things in person is just always a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And this was like doing it in person times two.
Yeah. Times two. Yeah. Yeah. So what is that? That's like 3 months BC
Yes.
before Corona.
Mhm.
Right? Yeah.
Which, although is really interesting to me because during this podcast, you'll hear in the podcast as we get going, I had this thing going on in my chest, and I even asked Shaman Durek about it. And I just was struggling with my lungs for like a while. And I look back and I kind of think I had coronavirus, quite frankly. I think that I probably had it in December, January, somewhere in there. And I think I was dealing with some of the lingering effects. And so it's funny because I was thinking about this podcast today and I was like, oh yeah, this was kind of in the latter stages of my gunk.
Yeah, your respiratory shenanigans.
Yeah. And so he speaks a little bit to that and what's going on. But I just find it really interesting that was what was going on when we did this podcast.
Yeah.
And here we are 3 months later.
Yeah. And there's a whole
still
other
dealing.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. So many of you have heard of Shaman Durek, but if you have not, he is a spiritual guide and gifted healer. He's a 6th-generation shaman, and we'll get into some of the history of his family and how he comes into this quite naturally. But he is a speaker, a women's empowerment leader, and a visionary for the new age. And I think, again, it's really interesting to be talking to Shaman Durek at this particular time and releasing this episode at this particular time because we are really in a transformation of sorts. We are sort of up-leveling, I think, in the world right now. There's so much growing. I was going to say Groshen, but growing and expansion.
Really Groshen over here.
We are Groshen over here. But Shaman Durek teaches and conducts private sessions with a diverse clientele all over the world, from the Princess of Norway to iconic health leaders. And so he is really kind of the shaman to the stars, if you will, and really kind of embedded into this Los Angeles area and really some of the thought leaders and speakers. And in fact, I think the forward on his book, Spirit Hacking, is from Dave Asprey. So he really is this kind of interesting combination between old world medicine and shamanism and sort of new world hacking and this visionary sort of way of looking at the world. And so this is a very, very cool conversation. I don't even know what happened. Like, I'm going to have to listen to this again because I just remember it was quite a journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's a little snap back in time around topics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if we had him on right now, we'd be talking specifically about coronavirus and all of the things that, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And so it's interesting to have something that was recorded before this was a thing. and you'll hear it just sort of in the tone of the conversation. Like everything is just going to sound a little bit different because it's, pre-epidemic or pandemic, discussion. But there's, he's definitely an interesting guy, and there's something about him. Like it's really good that we got to meet him in person, because in person you get like a charisma and the feeling of being around him that I think if you were just talking to him, over the phone, trying to get into an interview, it would be a lot more difficult to kind of grasp what's going on, because it's not, it's not the most straightforward conversation, right? I mean, we're talking about shamanism in sort of the modern era and what that looks like, with a twist of like Hollywood, LA put on top of it, so
Right.
It's a really weird conversation to like grab a hold of. If we were trying to do it remotely,
Yeah.
So I'm, we were super tapped into what was going on in the room. And so I really hope that translates, to the listeners. And if it doesn't, if it falls completely flat, you just had to be there.
Just know it was awesome.
Just know it was awesome. There was something going on, and yeah, you just can't quite put your finger on it, but there's just something going on with this dude.
Well, and the thing I love about Shaman Durek, and we've kind of been like in touch via Instagram, and the Instagram sort of communication that goes on post podcast. But what I love about him is there is a super playful spirit to him, and that it's like the inner child is definitely present. And I just love that playfulness and that effervescence that he has. And even after the podcast, as I have watched and sort of observed him more, it's like, I really get that he's all about this life being your playground, and to really just step into that expression, and that like, it's just available for you right now. Like you really do have the keys to your own castle. And it's really, it's something that you definitely get from him when you're with him. And then it kind of over time, even it really saturates, if you will, even more that playful spirit is really such a key component of who he is. Yeah,
totally. And, one of the things that I like about his, if he has a message, I guess, which I don't know that he really does, other than, he's just doing his thing, but he's really interested in you solving your own problems, right? And you being the source of your own healing and your own sort of intuition about the world. And I think that's really, really refreshing, because it's easy to take somebody who, does this, like is a shaman to the stars, right? And you would be really easy to look at that role that he's playing and be like, well, he's just trying to get, just trying to take people's money, or he's just trying to do, I don't know. It's like palm reading times 10,000 or whatever, this sort of weird thing going on. But that's not what he's really doing. He's really trying to help people find their own inner mechanism for healing and for growth and for just the way to see the world. And I think there's really something to be respected about that, and you kind of have to be paying attention to get it, otherwise it could kind of float right by. But that's really what's up, and I think that there's something I respect quite a bit about that, is like, you've got all the tools. I'm just going to help you kind of see where they are,
Yeah. And it's funny because we're even in the conversation, he's like, you don't have to go to Burning Man. You don't have to go to Peru. You don't have to, I forget what the third one was, but it was like all three things that we've done.
Yeah. We're like about to do. We're like, hey,
we're like, wait, but whatever, we want to do that.
Whatever, dude.
But it's actually, it's fun though, because like, he really is just, and it is actually so in alignment with what we say. It's like, every moment is a possibility for adventure, for expansion, for love with yourself, with love, to fall in love with your life. Like there's no prerequisite for that. Like it is just here for you if you decide that like you want to tap into it. And I just think it's really refreshing to remember that. Yeah.
That's cool. So I think we've babbled about it enough.
We've babbled about it enough, and we're going to babble on for a couple of hours here. So buckle up, get ready for this one, grab some popcorn if you're into that kind of thing. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hop into the meditation challenge that we have going for grounding and healing. There'll be links below in the show notes. This is a 10-minute guided meditation delivered direct to your messenger app. So it comes direct to your phone. Pop on your headphones, listen to that. And it's one that I put together specifically for this time, for everything that we're going through, to really help ground you in, give you some good energy, get some healing. And of course, those binaural sound waves don't hurt to really drop you in deeper to that meditative state. So check out the show notes, check out all the links for Shaman Durek. And without further ado, here we go. Welcome to the podcast, Shaman Durek.
Thank you, love.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here and to be in this beautiful space with you. Thank you for insisting that we have a different space to be in. I appreciated
Absolutely.
that.
Everything's about energy for me. I'm very sensitive to environments.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So,
a good one.
Yeah, you picked a good one. So, I really want to start with just taking it back a notch, kind of going to the beginning, because obviously this whole shaman thing started for you early on. And I really want to talk about the moment that you died. And I want to kick it off with this because obviously it's such a pivotal moment in your story. And, without going all the way back to childhood, which of course was very informative for you, I want to just really start with that first story of what it was like to literally lose your life.
So I was in the jungles of Belize, and it was called Jaguar Jungle. And I was doing a lot of, learning with the shamans and, spending time and, going with machete and going through the jungle, climbing vines and mountains and falling in holes of water with leeches and crazy stuff,
Normal shaman stuff.
And at one point, I decided to take a break and go to the Tobacco Keys, which is an island off the coast of the jungle. And there's a medicine woman there. And so she heard about me, and so I went to spend time with her, and she was doing this ceremony and everything, and she had said to me, which I already knew before that I was going to die. It was just constantly reconfirmed every time I would speak to a certain powerful person. I mean, the first time I found out I was going to die, I was in Greece, and I was studying with John Marcis, this hypnotherapist, and I wasn't really into hypnotherapy. I actually thought it was kind of like, not real. And I had actually flown there to kind of see for myself. And he had put me on a table, and there was a bunch of students around, and he took a watch and put it in front of me, like this kind of hanging watch. And he said to me, just look at this watch swinging and stuff and breathe. And I did. And I was like, okay, nothing happened. And he goes like, actually, and he put a tape recorder on, and it was like telling him that it was my voice, but like more softer and feminine, and was like saying that I was the Oracle of Delphi, and I never even heard of Delphi in my entire life. And so what was interesting about it was I don't even remember being hypnotized.
Wow.
But what he did was he hypnotized me, had me lay down, talked all this stuff to me, and then I came out, and then so all I remember was just the watch swinging, but he wanted to show me like that's how powerful it is. I actually ended up going to Delphi. He told his family took me to Delphi in the morning, and I had this full awakening of my life in Delphi as an oracle. And I knew where everything was. Like I knew what everything was, what it said. And I went to where the oracle was, and I got these intense energies, and you could say it like spirit apparitions, told me that I was going to kind of laid out my life for me, like all the way to the point of like what my life is going to look like. And at one point it had said that you're going to die a horrible death, and but it's going to change the world. So whatever that meant. And then there was a point where I was in San Francisco in the Castro, and I saw the psychic, and he had said the same thing. He's like, you're going to become like the next leader in the spiritual movement in the world, and you're going to lead people to recognizing their power as them being a child of God in the way that Jesus had intended for them, which is like the whole thing of you will do greater things than I. And I think that's really fascinating too, because I grew up learning a lot about both sides of the coin. I studied religion, studied Christianity, went to Christian school, learned about, had a grandfather who walked away from shamanism and became a Catholic who went into Seventh-day Adventist and became a minister and became this huge congregation. And then the other side of my family was the shamanic side. So I spent my time growing up studying the Bible and practicing my shamanic skills. And a lot of times when people think shamanism, they think like black magic, they think like witchcraft, they think like, voodoo, hoodoo, whatever, they want to say. But shamanism is about having a relationship. And it's about having a relationship with the people around you, nature, animals, the wind, the sun, the moon, creation, because we believe in shamanism that the only way you can truly love God is to love what God created. So you can't love what God created if you're not willing to have a relationship with it, right? And you can't have a relationship with someone if you're judging them, you know? So in a very young age, we learn how to dismiss judgment. And to just accept people as they show up without any expectations. Like, you be who you want to be, and I'm just going to love you unconditionally, and let's just see where that goes, right? And let's see what kind of relationship develops from that. And that's the same relationship I have with the trees that I have with the wind. When the wind blows across my face, I talk to the wind as if it was talking to you on the street, you know? So a lot of times, so people don't realize that. So basically what happened was I was in the jungle. I got the message from the elder woman on the island that I was going to die after I left the jungle. I went back home, and about 3 days, I woke up, and there was a spirit in my room, and it looked at me. It was very dark, and it said to me, "Are you willing to prove your love for humanity? Are you willing to see if you have what it takes?" And I was like, yes. And I felt it reach into my body and squeeze until I felt excruciating pain. So I fell out of my bed and I started gasping for air, crawling on the floor. I got to my office where I was crawling. So I get emotional. It's just okay. It's just, you know, memories, human experiences of emotions that are trapped in me. So I pulled the phone down and it fell on the floor, and I dialed this friend of mine, Marcus. Marcus comes over with his truck, and Marcus is a friend of mine who's just like the all-American guy, drives the truck, you know, like he's just really great guy. Like, I mean, if I was to say he's like, you know, one of the good old boys, you know, that kind of guy. Comes over, picks me up off the floor, like, we need to get you to the hospital, puts me in the car. He's driving 2 blocks, and my body takes over, and my head smashes into the windshield and hits the counter and hits the door, and I start having a seizure, and it hit so hard that it knocked me out. Woke up, I was like, the car door was open, and he was holding me, and he was crying, and he was like, "Oh my God." He's like, you know, "I called my girlfriend, like I called the ambulance, like I don't, like, you know, they're coming right now to get you." So I passed out again, woke up again in the ambulance. They told me I had like 7 rolling seizures.
Which you'd never had seizures
Never had a seizure before. Yeah. So for me, it was like the way I've always lived my life, that if I do something I've never done before, I always go, "Oh, that's what that feels like." You know, like I'm not a person who's like, "Oh, I will never do that." Like, right. I'm like, "Oh, let me experience and see. Oh, that's what a seizure is. Oh, okay, I've never had that happen before." Right. Oh, I passed out. That's what passing out feels like, you know? So I was in the ambulance, and the guy looked at me, and he was like, he had like these pads on the side of the stretcher. And I was like, "What's these for?" And he's like, "You had like 7 rolling seizures." And I was like, "Oh," I go, "That's what a seizure felt like?" And I go, "Oh my God, that's interesting." And he goes, "That's strange that you're saying that. Why are you saying that?" I'm like, "Because I've never had one before. So it's like a new experience. So it's a check in my book of like seizure."
Totally. Yeah.
He's like, "That's really weird." He's like, "You're like fighting for your life right now, and you're concerned about
the bucket
like
list.
The fact that you had an experience, you know?" So I said, "Well, I have more." And he goes, "Well, we're trying to prevent it, but that's why we put the padding here." And so he puts me into a hospital. Like, they pull me in the stretcher in the hospital. Marcus runs up to the stretcher, and the doctors and everyone's doing their stuff, whatever. And he's talking to me, and he's like, "You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay." And all of a sudden, the room got really bright, and there was this woman, and it was like an ocean. And I could see her standing there looking at me, and she was luminescent, beautiful woman. And she said to me, You're going to transition from this body. Don't fight, because when you fight, you'll have more suffering. The body, we have to get you out of the body. And so when you fight, it's going to be more suffering. So when the pain starts, just breathe into it and let go, you know? She was like, "Just let go." And so I was, you know, like, okay. And then she disappeared. And then Marcus looked at me, and he's like, "Who are you even talking to?" And I was like, "Oh, there was this woman in the room," and stuff like that. And he's like, "Marcus, I need to let you know something." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm going to die." And he's like, "No, you're not." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "No, I'm going to get a nurse. Everything's going to be fine. They're going to check you out. It's going to be fine." And I'm like, "No, it's not. And I'd rather you not go get a nurse, because I don't want to die alone." That's like my biggest fear. It was always my biggest fear. Dying in solitude. And so he was like, "When do you think it's going to happen?" And I said, the woman said it's going to be very soon. And then within like I guess a couple more sentences, I felt someone stabbing me all over my body. And what had happened was that my kidneys had failed, and my potassium levels shot up to about a 10 point. No, it was more than, I think it was like an 11.2 or 10 point. Yeah, about 11. It was like 10.6 was what they said, but I think it shot up more than that. And then what happens when that happens is that all your organs start shutting down one by one. And when one organ shuts down, it's the most painful feeling in your body you've ever felt. And it's literally like someone taking like 5 knives and just cutting deep into your body. And you can feel when your organs shut down, your body can't function. So all the fluids start pulling back. So you can feel it like bloating you out, like it starts building inside. And then another organ, and then another organ, and another organ, and another organ, and your body starts going into shock, and then you start having like intense seizures. Then your lungs stop working, and then they fall. And then I was like, couldn't breathe. So at that point, the doctors came, and they like put a hole in my neck and was trying to get oxygen, but they couldn't. And I just kept hearing this voice say, let go, let go. And the pain just got worse and worse and worse. And because I'm such a fighter, because I've been through so much in my life, I was just like, no, I'm not letting go. I'm going to fight through this. And it just was ridiculous, the fight, truly. I mean, when it's time to go, it's time to go. And,
just
like,
give it up, huh?
I mean, that's it. That's like my golden advice for everyone. It's like, when it's your time to go, just let go, because the fight makes you, it's draining. It hurts. It's painful. It's
I'm curious though, just for a moment, you mentioned you're afraid to die alone, but why is that?
I spent a lot of time alone as a kid because of my powers, and I always had this feeling like I was going to be like, alone, by myself, because I spent a lot of time by myself, and I just was always afraid that one day I could just die and I'll be all alone. I won't have anyone to like say goodbye to, or someone to hold my hand and, just comfort me while I'm dying,
Yeah, of course.
So then after I kept fighting, and then I heard my grandmother's voice come in, and she said, let go, child. And it was a distinct voice, and I knew it was her, and I let go, and the whole room turned to liquid. Like I could hear this intense, high-pitched sounds. It was like, and then like, and I could hear the voices of people, and I could hear what's going on in their head. I could hear their thoughts while they're talking, and I could see every angle from above, below, from the side, from every angle. I was existing everywhere. And then my grandmother and my aunt came in the room, and they told me that this next part I have to do, but I'm not alone. And that whatever I decide and whatever I choose, they'll always love me and always be there for me. And all of a sudden, I was underneath the water, and I could see, when you swim in the bottom of a pool and you can see the light glistening on top, it was like that. But there was colors all around me that I've never seen before. And then all of a sudden I started going down, and it got darker and darker and darker. And all of a sudden I was standing in a hospital, and I was watching my mom give birth to me while experiencing being inside of her womb at the same time, and seeing the lights from outside of her stomach, and being inside the embryonic fluid. And from there was like this voice talking to me, being like, this was your birth. And I saw it. And I saw my mom, and I saw like her legs up on these metal stirrups, and then I saw the hospital and the nurse and everything, and then it went from that, and then it was like my going home, and then like every single experience in my life, from the first day of school to my first fight that I ever got into, to the first time I've ever eaten peanut butter jelly sandwich, you name it, like everything.
Literally,
and then,
your life flashed before your eyes.
The whole life. But it's not like flashes. It's like you're actually really living it again. And then you also not only live it, but you're also living how other people were affected by you. So I got to see the rippling effect of my actions and what if it was creating love in the world or if it was devastating the world, you know? That was really intense.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, I want to just hover there for a moment because, you know, this is the thing, right? That you hear about different phases of death from people who've had near-death experiences and this sort of reckoning, if you will, of like coming to grips with what your experience of who you were in the world. And did it leave you with a sense of, all right, I did okay? Or did it leave you with a sense of like, oh shit, I better do a better job next time?
So after I saw all of that, I actually confronted myself. So it was like, it was me standing in front of me, like talking to me and telling me like, how do you feel about everything that you just saw, you know? And I just felt love, you know? And then all of a sudden that person was me talking to me. And then this light came. This beautiful, oh my God, the light. I'll never forget the look of that light. Sometimes I think about that light every time like someone dies on the earth. I think like, wow, they get to see that light again.
Yeah, I know. I actually, it's kind of a funny thing, but I think a lot of times people, when they hear about someone passing, they think of like, they have an immediate reaction of like sadness. And God's honest truth, like sometimes I'm just jealous. I'm like,
yeah, I'm jealous.
They get to know, like what I know.
I'm
they're
jealous
because
I know
awesome.
what it's like, so I get jealous, you know. But then what kind of brings me back is looking at people and realizing that like I have all this knowledge and information and love to share with the world. And so much more things that I can discover about myself, more things I can learn from other people that I can actually utilize to really help people put the power back in their hands. I can wait. It's okay. Yeah. Like I know that, you know, I wouldn't have come back. But so basically after that, the light came, and the light is warm and inviting. It pulls you to it, and everything that makes you happy is in that light. So like if you loved like ice cream sundaes, you feel that sensation. Right. You know, if you are a person who loves to be hugged and cuddled by people, you feel all of it, but like 10 times more than you would have felt. And then I ended up on this beach, and I could see that I didn't have a body, but I could see the beach. And that woman came back, and she came towards me, like she glided towards me, and she said to me, welcome, it's nice to have you back. What type of body would you like to have? And I was like, the one that I had before. And all of a sudden my fingers appeared and my hands, and I could see my legs, and I touched my face. But the difference is I didn't feel bones. I didn't feel these wet, like when I'm here, like right now when I do this to my hand, I feel moist. I feel some cold areas. I feel some warm areas, some gritty areas. Whereas there, it's just completely warm and like the best feeling ever. There's no bones. And I asked her like, where am I at? And she told me this is the beach of remembrance. This is the place where people return to have all their memories given back to them. And then she told me, I know you have a lot of questions, so go ahead and ask.
Yeah, naturally.
And so I was like, why is there war? Why do people suffer? Why do people, you know, like everything you can imagine of the calamities of Earth. And she gave me one answer for all of them. And she said, human beings have malfunction in thinking. They think against themselves as a child of God. And it wasn't like a part of me that was like, I need to debate this or I need to ask more questions.
Right.
It's like when the truth is presented, you just know.
Right. Yeah. It just has a ring to it.
It just was it, you know? And I was just like, yeah, they have forgotten, you know? And it made sense to me about like, you know, and then, you know, she said, do you have any more questions? And I was like, no. And then she said, would you like to see family members or friends and people that you knew when you were on Earth? Or would you like to rest? What would you like to do? And I was like, people rest here. And she's like, if you want to. And she goes, and people eat here. And she goes, but all your memories will start coming back to you the more you travel and you visit and you start remembering, thinking of people you want to see and places you want to go. And I was like, I just want to go to a community area and just watch and just be there. And so she goes, do you want to fly or do you want to glide? Or how do you want to get there? And I was like, let's just, you know, glide there. So we were going through these grass and these mountains. I could see like lakes and oceans, and it was the most gorgeous. I mean, it's like being on Earth, but better.
Right.
Everything is pristine and beautiful and glistens. And there's this sound that you hear when you look into the sky that only you can hear. Everyone hears something different, and it's like talks to your soul. Like it's lets you know that God is there, you know?
It reminds me of that movie, What Dreams May Come. Do you remember that Robin Williams movie? Like, I don't know because I haven't been there, but that's what I picture. Like, it's just this extra juicy version of what we experience.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
And I got to go to community area, and I met this little girl. She told me she had died in the Nazi war, and that she never got a chance to be a girl, so she chose to be a girl there. And we were talking. I was on a bench, and there was like all these people. Some people were flying, and people were laughing and talking and gathering, and people were resting. I mean, it was beautiful. And there was these little white orbs everywhere. And I was like, "What are these white orbs?" And she was like, "This is everyone's consciousness communicating the most beautiful experience they can all have together." So what I was experiencing was something we all created together based on like what we all think heaven looks like. Yeah. And it was so beautiful. And then I got to visit an old friend of mine, this guy named Josh Yortz. I got to visit a bunch of my friend who died in a car accident. I got to visit family members. And it was beautiful because each of them had their own heaven. It wasn't like I was going to like a house on a street. It was like I think about them and I appeared in their world. And like some of their world was for us. Josh had he was on the water. You know, everyone had something different. You know, some people were looking at places that looked like they were in Rome. You know, it was like everyone had whatever their heaven looks like to them. And some were like mystical, magical places.
That's amazing.
And I got to, I felt like I was there forever. A bunch of friends got together and we turned ourselves into sound waves and like went up into the sky and started bouncing off of each other and creating these huge waves of energy. It was amazing. I got to see all the different aspects of myself that exist. I didn't know that I exist more than once on Earth. Like I didn't know that like there's me and I'm existing in another body on Earth right now. I didn't realize how I exist in all things and how I'm a part of everything. But it was like, but as I was there, my memory started coming back more and more of being there before. And then they had said to me, you know, all of your memories are starting to come back. You know, if you have to make a decision if you're going to stay here before all your memories come back, or are you going to go back? And I said, well, am I allowed to go back? And they said, it's never a choice upon what we choose for you. It's always your choice. You just don't realize you're making the choice. And I was like, I want to go back. And immediately I was on the beach and there were all these other people on the beach and everyone was hugging, and there was like the ocean was there and the water, there was this light at the edge of the ocean and everyone just went into the water and then like dived into the water and this light. And all of a sudden I was going through these stargates. I could see other galaxies and other planets and the star systems and nebuluses and then there was Earth, and it was this beautiful, just life. And all of a sudden I started falling towards the earth and I saw like the sky and lights, and it was so bright and liquid. And there was this liquid, like I was floating through this liquid. And then all of a sudden I saw myself in the hospital and I came back into my body. And at the time the doctors were shocking me with the defibrillators, and they took a adrenal and hit me with an adrenal. And it was the most painful thing. And my eyes couldn't open. And I remember being in the body, but feeling them doing this to me. And then I heard these voices, which is the thing that really tripped me out. I'm still, figuring it out today. But it was these voices, like I was being watched by these different type of beings. And they were like, plug him back in. And I heard them say it. I heard them say, plug him back in.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden I heard these high-pitched sounds, and it was like, and it was like,
this part is not in the book, by the way.
No, I took a lot of it. Because my publisher was like, you don't need to put the whole story. Just give them a brief synopsis.
Right. Yeah, but it's awesome to hear it. Like,
I didn't want to make it all about being like to be like, the book is about my death experience.
Right.
The book is about the knowledge and information I have to share with the world.
Sure.
But I heard the voice say, plug them back in. And then I heard the voice say, he's back in. He's back in, now turn him on. And all of a sudden I heard this pressure. It was like intense. It's like, I don't know if you ever had a moment where you laid in bed and you start having you feel like this electricity around your body, and then you hear these weird sounds. It's like almost like it sounds like with like space sounds, and people usually freak out and they fall back in their body. Right. Well, it was like that, and it just got really scary and intense. And then all of a sudden, my eyes open and I could see the doctor, and they're like, "We got him," And I started like shaking, and they were putting this tube down my throat because they were saying he can't breathe. And then they're like, "We're gonna lose him. He's gonna crash. He's gonna crash again. He's gonna crash again. And let's put him into a coma." And I kept hearing them like induced coma, something like that. And I was just like, I could hear my voice talking, different voices talking to me. And then all of a sudden I was out, and I was just like walking around the hospital, doing things, listening to people's conversations, coming to my bedside, talking to me and things like that. And then I came out of my coma like 2 months later.
Wow.
And I was in the hospital bed, and they were like, "You're paralyzed, you have brain damage, you have no kidney, your kidneys don't function, your hands don't function," like all these things. And so that was a real interesting thing. And what was really interesting was there was this dark presence in the room with me every night. I mean, every day, I would say, like every day and every night, it would talk to me like nonstop. It would say, child of light, why do you insist coming back for us? Why do you care so much about us? You know the humans will never accept us. And that means we will continue to reign over them. You're not going to be able to get them to love the darkness. They're always going to be afraid of us. That's the whole purpose, to keep them afraid so we stay in our world and we have dominion over them. And I was like, and I heard this other voice come in and say, don't listen to that voice. It was the woman from the beach. She's like, don't listen to that voice. She said, listen to my voice and only my voice. She said, or you will be stuck in this situation. And every day she told me what to do to heal my body, to get my lungs to work and to get my fingers to work. And the only thing that didn't work was my kidneys, but I got my brain to function. I got my ability to get off life support. It took me a while, but I did it following her instruction. And then I was in a wheelchair for about 1.5 years. And then she taught me how to get out of the wheelchair.
Wow.
And then I was on dialysis for 8 years after that, doing like Monday, Wednesday, Friday dialysis. And then I kept asking God, when am I going to get out of this? And God's like, you asked to go through this because you wanted to understand human suffering and the depravity of suffering that humans go through, so you can see that even if you're suffering, you can still give love and still be a kind person and still be a loving person. So I never complained. And I continued helping people while I was on dialysis. So every day I do dialysis Monday, and then Tuesday I would see people for sessions and do like talks and things like that. Sometimes I'd bring my dialysis machine with me in my talks. And then God came to me in a dream. It was actually Jesus who came to me and said, remember, it's about love. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise. It's only about love. You're getting a kidney soon, and you need to go to the places where people have forgotten to love, and you need to remind them that darkness will consume this planet and all the people on it if they do not learn how to love the darkness and bring them home. And so that's kind of, and then my sister gave me a kidney. Like, it was like she woke up, she said an angel came to her in her room. She said it was Archangel Michael, and told her, you need to give your brother a kidney. And she said it was so bright, the light was so bright, she couldn't look into it. And she called me in the morning, and she's been scared to do the kidney transplant. She's scared of operations, period. And she's like, my fear is gone. And she gave me a kidney. And right after that, I went straight back to, I went to Istanbul with the whole stuff with ISIS, and got right in the thick of it.
Wow. What a story. Amazing. Incredible. I love it. So
I knew you were going to do that.
Just taking care of you.
Yeah.
Had a girl.
Yeah. Got the eyes on you.
Little mama bear. I love it. I love it.
Could you imagine my girlfriend's family seeing me sit like that? Mom would be like, this is inappropriate.
Well, It'll never work.
Inappropriate.
Yeah.
Do not sit like that.
That was a love pillow.
Yeah, it's fine.
So I want to go back to the voice, though, the darkness, because, you know, one of the things I really want to, I just feel like I want to hover there for a moment, because what do you think that darkness is? What is that voice? I really want to know what that is, because I do believe that we are battling that right now as a world, as a people. We are battling that darkness, and exactly like what you said, it will either consume us or we will learn to love and overcome it. But what is it?
Well, you know what I have found, which I thought was really fascinating, when I was a little kid, I was heavily into Metallica, you know, because Metallica is like it's literally my Bible, you know. And
Adam
so
Slayer,
I used to sit in a cabinet with these big headphones and listen to Metallica. And my dad used to always say, like, why do you need to listen to Metallica so much? And I'm like, because they tell the truth. Yeah. You know, they're telling the truth. Like every song, they're telling us the secrets of life. Like it's being channeled. And one day I was going to a pool party with a friend, and I was changing in the pool house, and while I was in the pool house changing, there was this woman who walked in, and she said to me, "Why don't you give yourself to us? You have a lot of power. We need your power." And I was like, "Who are you?" And it's like, "I have many faces. I can come as a man or a woman." It was talking to me. And then I saw all these hands come out of the walls, like grabbing me and stuff like that. And so my whole childhood, I've been, from the time that I was a kid, like in shamanism, I think the hardest thing about being a shaman, from my perspective, is you literally live in the world of the ghouls, the nightmares, the scary things that come bumping in the night. Like, that's my world, you know? Like, I would be in bed at night, I'll give you an example, and my bed would go down on one side, and I'd have my back I would be facing to the wall, and it would be a woman talking behind me being like, "I know you're so lonely. No one likes your powers. If you look at me, I can make it all stop." And she would like rub her hand down my back, and I would get this chill that would go down my back. So in shamanism, the reason why a lot of shamans don't make it is because they can't handle the spiritual warfare, because it's real.
Yeah.
And I get like beings will come in my room and try to choke me, drown me. I've had, you know, beings poke me, stab me, put their finger on me until like I can feel pain. And I had to learn how to develop my powers to be able to protect myself from them. And so when I was in school, it was hard for me being in school as a kid, because my friends were like going home and like, you know, skateboarding and all this stuff. Yeah. And I'm sitting at home trying to figure out a conjuring spell of how I can like to get a spell that a spirit's trying to put on me to block me from certain things. A lot of people don't realize that their spirits put spells on you. Like I had a woman today who had a spell on her throat. So what happened was when she was young, she was prevented from speaking her truth. So that darkness that made her parents do that put a spell on her to shut her up. And so when we were trying to get things out, she's like, "I feel like I get this knot in my throat, like I can't get it out." I said, "Because you have a spell in your throat. So now what I need to do is find the right combination spell to get it off of your throat so the light can shine through your throat and you can speak your truth again." But it's like people don't know that these things are happening. Why someone doesn't make money, or why someone goes through hardship, or all these different things. There are all these different spirits that are doing these things. And as a shaman, you learn how to deal with those spirits, but we don't learn it in the way that I learned from my grandfather, which was more the religious side, where they're like down Satan and like throwing holy water and doing all this stuff, like Islamic Padre and you know all this kind of stuff. You learn by developing a cultivation of love, because if you fight darkness with fear, it's stronger than you. If you get scared at night and something is chasing you in your dreams and you run, it gains power from you. Darkness's whole thing is, think of darkness like it's only taking on the shapes and forms that scare you so it can take your life force from you. Because you are a child of God. That means you emanate the highest source of light intelligence. Light intelligence means that you have the ability to create like worlds, okay? If you believe you can.
Right.
All darkness wants from you is that light, because they need that light to survive.
Right.
Their world and their dimension where they've created is dark, but it's fueled by a light source. But the light source has to have someone who has the light source, who has free will, and chooses to use their free will incorrectly. So all I have to do as darkness is to get you to think against yourself, think against your brothers and sisters, to get you stuck in a pain that you won't let go of because you won't surrender it to God. And from there, all I have to do is get you angry at me, scared of me. So what I do is I watch the movies you watch. I see the things that scared you in that movie, and I put the costume on. So then I go into your dreams and terrorize you. I'll come to your room and whisper to you and do things to you. And when you feel chills go up the back, you think that's scary. You don't realize that those chills are actually your defense mechanism to teach you how to build your power. So then what darkness does is it waits for you to react. It'll say things like, no one really likes you. You're fat, you're ugly. They're going to leave you eventually. And look how they're treating you right now. You should get mad. You should be angry. And then all of a sudden, because you don't choose to hold yourself and dig into love, this is what I mean by saying cultivate love. The only way I was able to defeat these beings, and when I say defeat them, I mean transform them, was to cultivate love. And it's an ongoing thing. So
are these beings also part of God?
Well, yes, of course, but
so
they use their
from God. I just really, because this is the stuff that fascinates me, is like actually getting into the minutia of this, because I think sometimes, especially in spirituality, we're like in this zoomed out vision of it, like, oh, we need to love, but like I want to understand like what is going on with these beings and when did they split from that consciousness, or like what is that? What are they?
So basically, imagine a human being on Earth, and they have people in their family who are mean to them, or friends, or life has just been hard for them. So a being that's in the dark realm, who also had a body at one time, who had something similar to what they're going through, merges with them and speaks their story into their consciousness. But that person who's on Earth thinks that that's them thinking those things, because they don't know discernment. They don't know when Jesus talks about being able to discern. Discernment means the ability to know what is God and what isn't of God. What is God is pure love. What isn't of God is anything it's still God, but it's been distorted. So it needs to be brought back. It's not in its original form. So when a voice comes in your head that says something negative, that's not you. You represent love. You are the child of God. So you need to go to that voice and be like, okay, so I hear you. Obviously, you're telling me your horrible story that happened to you when you had a human body. Would you like me to help you come home? But we do the difference. What we do is we listen to the voice, merge more with it, which like in shamanism we say, build a relationship. Every time you entertain those voices, you're building a relationship with it. Then it starts to consume you to the point where now you're acting out things that are connected to that voice. You might all of a sudden like cut someone out of your life, or yell at someone, or say something mean to them, or whatever it may be. And that's because you are being taken over by that spirit who wants to go to the light eventually, but it needs someone like you to redeem it to go to the light, because it turned away from the light when it died. Remember I told you that part where you get to see how you impacted the world? Some beings will see that, and when the light comes, they walk away from it. Then they go to the darkness. We call it the underworld in shamanism. And it looks like Earth, but think of it a little bit more grayer and darker. A lot of people in the dream world have gone. People who sleep at night go there sometimes. You can't turn the light on there. So sometimes people will have dreams where they're trying to turn the light on and they can't get the light on. That's because you're in the underworld.
There's no electricity
there are no
there.
Lights.
Yeah. And like, I remember one time this pastor, friend of mine, Pastor Badur in San Francisco, said to this couple, they're like, we can't turn the lights. That's why we're turning to Christianity, because we don't understand what's happening. It's scaring us. And he's like, that's because the devil's upon you. No, that means that you're actually been chosen by God to go into the dark realm, to view it and see it for what it is, and then build yourself back up here to cultivate love so that when you go back there, you can bring your brothers and sisters home. Everyone in the dark realm are our brothers and sisters, but they have forgotten because they've been shadowed by darkness. So all they're doing is living in a loop, and their whole thing is to continue to get fed the light by having you distort it to darkness. So you're the distorter. So when I meet couples who argue and fight and bicker and stuff, but then they have the nerve to say like, oh, I can't believe Trump is doing this, or I can't believe this person's doing that, and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, you know what? Just to let you know, from a shamanic point of view, you're actually adding to all the things you don't like. You are the main source of it. Because all darkness does is get you to not amplify love. Every relationship should be amplifying love. Every partnership should amplify love. Anything you have a relationship with should be a relationship with God. When you're with a tree, it should be a relationship with God because God created that tree. God created that flower. God created the ocean. God created those animals. Respect that and have a relationship with it, and you will know God, because as you begin to see God's most majestic beauty and artistry, then you begin to see yourself and your fingers and your hands and your lungs and your liver. And you're like, I don't want to hurt those things. I don't want to put alcohol in my body. I only want to put things that my body needs. I don't want to tell myself that I'm ugly or I'm stupid or I'm done or I'm dumb or I can't, I'm not capable, because I'm telling God that. How can I say I love God if I'm willing to put down what God created?
Amen.
That's like telling an artist, I really love your work and everything, or I don't really love your work. I think it's ugly and horrible. You're putting down the artist, because God is the great artist. And so what our brothers and sisters are still our brothers and sisters. And when we get into this righteous, holier than thou, pious behavior, we are giving the darkness exactly what it wants. Darkness wants you to hate it. Darkness wants you to put people in prison. Darkness wants you to not create rehabilitation programs. Darkness wants you to judge. Keep judging. Yes, judge. Because when you judge, you're blind. That's what we say in shamanism. When you judge someone, you are a blind person. That means you cannot see God's light, which means that you cannot see the way to their heart. And if you cannot see the way to the heart, you cannot see the way to your own heart. It means you cannot see your way to God's heart. So you're just talking, babbling brook. You're just a babbling brook with no real wisdom or information. And the suffering of that is what you see in our world today. The suffering of that is when you see divisive, dissonance, desecration, people poverty, people suffering, disease, hurt, famine, people going through suffering, while someone is suffering and there's a rich man sitting in $1 billion lifestyle, but thinks that all that money means something, when that's also a trick from the darkness, because money is a currency. It's meant to be shared. These things don't belong to you. Nothing belongs to you. This microphone does not belong to you. This jacket doesn't belong to me. These are borrowed materials. And when we start putting attachments onto them, we start attaching ourselves to our reality. Reality is also not to be attached to. Like everything that's happening right now was set up way before this happened. So when someone sees something going on in their life, they react to it. They don't realize that they have the power to detach from it, realize that the source of what they see has come from a part of them that had a different mindset back when. So they have to do is say, stop, delete this information, now instill this information, stay unattached, and watch God's miracle happen. But people don't do that because the whole thing is darkness wants you to be reactive. It needs reaction. Right. That's why it built a government. That's why it built boxes. That's why it built buildings to be square. That's why it built streets rectangular. It wants you to be in box mentality. A box mentality is not concave. It's not circular, which means it's not quantum. So darkness wants men to always be in the position of constructing without, they want to suppress women because women are able to see the quantum elements, just like animals in nature have a stronger amygdala. Women have a stronger amygdala than men. So women can sense danger way before men can. So when a child walks in the room, a woman doesn't even need to look at the child. The woman has scanned the whole entire room, figured out where every danger is in the room. So the child walks in the room, the woman could be sitting over here and she sees in the peripheral that the child is moving this way. She knows all the different dangers in this area, all 6 dangers she sees already. So she sees the child's feet moving a certain way. She's like, don't touch that.
Yeah.
Because she knows what the child's about to do. A man is not even paying attention to any of those things.
Yeah.
Because a man operates in a linear perspective.
Right.
And that's what darkness knows. And darkness knows that if a man stays in power, and if we keep the separation between masculine and feminine separate, and we keep thinking that Mother Earth is just a mother, and we don't realize that the construction and design of my fingers is the masculine side. It's the fact that my fingers exist is the feminine side, and they are cohesive, meaning they are synergistic. So where there's synergy, then that means that there's wholeness. And that's when God's light can shine through. So as long as there's division, separation, alienation, ostracizing things, putting one over the other, creating duality, which is basically quantum entanglement, we will suffer. And it's inevitable. I don't care if you run around the streets with billboards saying, save nature, save nature. The trees are like, look, here's the deal, okay? We will outlive you.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay?
Yeah, we got this.
The bush is like, that's cute. That's really cute.
Totally.
But we have a whole networking system that goes way down deep.
Yeah.
Okay? And we have ways to reformulate ourselves, but you don't.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
Okay? Your body is borrowed from us.
Yep.
Your whole entire system is an elemental system. It needs our elements to survive. Your blood, your bile, your semen, your vaginal fluid, your spinal fluid is all liquid. It's all water. Your muscles are fire. Your bones are earth. Your breath is air. That is our elemental timetable. If you choose to destroy us, we can recreate ourselves, but by the time we do, it takes billions of years. We could freeze ourselves over, go into sleep, and go deep into the earth and warm ourselves up with the core or earth. Yeah. But you on top of the earth, dead.
Dunzo.
Dunzo.
The way of the dinosaurs.
So I don't know what, everybody's like, I love Greta Thunberg. Don't get me wrong. I love her. She's giving knowledge. She's sharing it. But you can save a tree all you want to save a tree. That's great. But if you don't learn how to become greater human beings, loving human beings, generous, kind, nurturing, prolific human beings that honor God's vision and free will to be aligned with the will of God, which is for us to thrive and become, as Jesus said, be greater than I. He didn't say, bow down to me and put me up on every single wall in every single church and worship me, fools, because I died for your sins and you better pay your homage or else you're going to hell.
We're going to judge you.
No, Jesus said very clearly, it was like light and day. You shall do greater things than I. Remember, take of my body, take of my blood, Holy Communion. Remember that I am a part of you. So why are people walking around playing small? They're supposed to be healing the blind. They're supposed to be learning how to walk on water. I mean, if they believe in these proclamations and declarations, then they need to start embodying that. And that's what I stand for on the planet. So when people see me do what I do, they're like, oh my God, where'd you get these powers from? God? Where do you think I got it from? Some dark demon sitting under a tree and a rock, and I went and spoke to him at night while I gave him some special jewelry or something. I don't know what the hell you think.
What do you
people have all kinds of interesting imaginations. You watch too many movies. People say things to me, and I'm like, wow, you watch a lot of movies. I don't watch scary movies. I watch Disney cartoons,
But they can be scary, actually. Cruella was...
Yeah. Well, Cruella, Cruella, but I'm saying violence,
I get it.
Gore. Like every time you watch a movie, it's like Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 4, Saw 5. You didn't see Saw 5, Saw 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's overload.
So, one of the things that has helped me in the years to kind of, diffuse some of the intensity of humanity, because, I think when you are a sensitive person, sometimes it can be really overwhelming to the senses. You can feel at times forlorn about the state of affairs, so to speak. And I think one of the things that has helped me, Adam and I have been to Rhythmia, and I know, have you been there yet?
No, I'm teaching. I'm teaching there on the 23rd with me, my girlfriend, and my whole team and everyone.
Okay. So we've been down there a couple of times with Jerry, and he's been on the podcast with us as well. But one of the things that really helped me was a few times of doing plant medicine and having these conversations with God, and really asking about like, well, what's before God? You know what I mean? Like, what is like? Sometimes we get so tunnel visioned into the state of affairs in humanity that it can get really heavy, right? But sometimes if you can zoom out and just look at like, well, what is this whole thing? Why are we here? Who is God and who made God? Like, what's before God? And that's my question to you. Like, what's before God?
Well, you're asking a question that's in third finite thinking. Mm-hmm. So you have to understand that your idea of before and after is governed towards your world because the matrix set up an idea of linear projection. So you believe that there's actually a past and a future and in between. So I couldn't answer your question in the way you're asking it because you're asking it in a third finite way. You're using a third finite thinking process and a mathematical principle process based upon what you've been elected to as far as information on planet Earth. The consciousness of God does not exist in linear form. It exists in quantum form, and it's self-regenerating. So the understanding of self-regeneration to human beings doesn't quite exist yet because human beings deplete. They operate from a place of scarcity and depletion, so they believe that they always have to take and fill back up. They don't understand what it means to be a sustainable human being. They haven't learned how to use consciousness in a way that actually sustains energy forms that allow energy to recycle itself through itself. They learned how to do that through electricity by taking a source and then running that source over and over, or recycling water. So they understand that as a form of regeneration, but not atomic regeneration. So when you think of God, you can't put God in your third dimensional box.
Yeah,
so
that's what he said.
You just can't. And the idea of wanting to is because you're still stuck in that linear understanding. If I told you that God is and God always was, even me saying that word, the languaging of your sentencing in human dialect is still incorrect to the level of knowledge and intelligence that would require for me to explain to you what God actually is. Yeah. Because the words that I say don't really give you the understanding, because I would say God is and God always was. So to you hear God was and God always is. How is that possible? Because the is and the was is a language. Right? But if I was to explain it to you and say, now I've moved out of your language structure. Right? And your language structure are held in barriers that you understand. Now, if you chose to tap into what I just said to you, you would have gotten the information exactly as I've given it to you, and you would understand without trying to put it through this brain. You would understand from your spirit. See, we all have spirit tongue. When you see people talking in tongues, okay, and religion and things of that nature, it's called spirit tongue. And what it is, it's the language that's outside of the barrier of human consciousness that allows you to interact with every spirit in all the universe. Right? But when you go into your dialect of like is, was, then, if, after, it's like me going, I went to the store. So it tells me I'm going to the store. Okay, great. That's human words. But those were created based on someone who passed it down and told everyone this is what a chair is, this is what a pillow is, this is what a jacket is. And so everyone accepted it. So now everyone did that so we can understand each other. But when you go into spirit tongue, you don't need to use intellect to communicate. You use emotions. Right? And that's why humans don't have connections with animals, because they think they're the superior race because they feel animals don't have a vocal box other than barking and making sounds. They don't realize the animals don't need a vocal box to communicate. They communicate through feelings. And their feelings are so profound that if humans were actually to take the time to learn, instead of learning Spanish and French and German and all these other languages you can learn in school, learn how to speak tree, learn how to speak animal language, learn how to speak wind, learn how to speak all these things, your intelligence and your expression of your intelligence would be far more vast than a person who wasn't able to. So if you think people like Thomas Edison, Einstein, Benjamin Franklin, you name it, the list goes on and on. These were innovators. An innovator is someone who is like a shaman. We do not follow the herd. We go outside of the consensus of human intellect and think what is out there that humans haven't even thought of yet. And then we test theories by testing, and then find the conclusions to those theories through the testing to see that it functions and it operates, and then we go from there. So like, I'll give you an example. Go ahead and put your right hand out. Okay. Do you give me permission to access your energy field in your system?
I do.
Okay.
And can I make a quick request?
Yeah.
Because it's just coming up for me right now. I have this like little cough that's just sitting in my chest right now that I keep feeling like I want to clear, and like it just keeps coming up. So it keeps asking me to just mention it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do I have permission to access your body intelligence, your emotional intelligence, your neurological system?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's take a look. Okay. Okay. Well, for one, your energetic system is running at a 45, and shamanism 45 means that you're burning yourself out. Mm-hmm. So your system says that it's on burnout. So what's happening is you're developing what we call mucoid in around your lower left lung that your body is producing because you're not eating the right food combinations. And because you have a sensitivity to food, you have to be very careful with the kind of food you put in your system, because your body says that your stomach is very sensitive and has been since you were a little girl, because you haven't built it up. You need to build your stomach up. And so what's happened is you are developing afflictions from the types of things that you're finding in your environment. Your environment is agitating you, and when you get agitated, more of that mucus develops, and so it sits there. So it's an itchy type of situation you're going inside. Council members, what does she need to do to clear it? They also said you need to speak your truth without holding back. They also mentioning stuff in your family, that you have what is called unresolved issues within your family because you hold your tongue because you don't want to upset people. So what you do is you pretend and go around the circle and try to get the conversation into a neutral place, but you weren't created to be neutral. You were created to express the truth, but also through the lens of love. So what Spirit is saying is that you need to speak from a place of love, because I love you, and then drop the bombs, right? Because what's happening is every time you hold back, you're holding your breath. You don't even take full breaths. Even right now, you've been sitting here and we've been in studio, and I haven't seen you take one full oxygen breath, which means that your brain isn't getting enough oxygen. So now if you're running your neurological system, you're firing off those synapses, you're hitting those electrodes, your body is constantly in thinking mode, right? Your prefrontal lobe is fully activated. You're drawing high levels of stress into your system. So what I'm going to do, tell me when you feel a sensation in your throat. I'm just going to go ahead into your throat. Give me a second. And can you feel anything?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what do you feel?
Like a tickle, like kind of right in the back of it.
Okay. And tell me when it becomes stronger and your breath increases.
Yeah, I feel it.
Good. And tell me when your breath increases even more and more air is coming out of your mouth. You feel that? Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm going to bring you the face of the person that's causing you stress in your family. Okay, give me a second. I need to go into your files. Got it. Here we go.
Yep.
Okay, and now I'm going to show you the areas of your body where you're storing these pains in your body and how it's affecting your health. Give me a second and tell me where you feel it in which part of your body.
Like the bottom of my heart.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And that is why it's affecting your lungs. Because the heart, the aorta, the whole entire heart vessel connects to the lung cavity, connects to the thyroid, connects to the thymus, right? So anytime anyone has any type of sensations or issues there, it's related to any kind of obstruction that's in those areas, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate, do you give me permission to activate your voice command so you can command your own body by hacking your own system?
Yes.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that, and tell me when you feel warm heat rushing through your body.
No.
Good. Tell me when it increases and you feel lighter in your head as if you're floating above a cloud.
No.
Good. And you have an energy there that is, the spirits are showing me that is you wanting to fix everything around you so you don't feel in harmony until things are fixed around you. So it's the idea that if something is around, if someone's upset, if someone's going through something, you don't believe you can find equilibrium when someone is going through that. So what you do is you put your 2 cents in and you butt in. But what that does is it messes up your empathic energies, because your empathic energy are meant to protect you and give you awareness of your environment and awareness of energies. It's not meant for you to jump in everyone's mud pit. You understand?
Yep.
So what you end up doing is someone's upset, instead of you going, I'm going to maintain my zen in the midst of the chaos, or be the eye of the storm, you go into the storm and spin around like a crazy person, and then you end up telling all your, then you start talking about it and 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 talking about it, and then your mate has to listen to it and listen to it and listen to it and listen to it, and then when he goes to give you information, you're not taking the information in the way that you, because your mate has wisdom, and your mate's like, okay, but don't put your energy there. Like focus on the things that make you feel happy and put yourself in that space. But when you talk about it, obsess, you draw the negative energy towards you and your family. So you actually start polluting not only your mate, you start polluting anyone who's around you, because you're taking the negative energy into your environment. And what the spirits are saying, my ancestors are saying, is that it limits you because it blocks doors from opening, because you're overloaded. So when projects are supposed to, like, big things that want to come your way get put on hold, and you go into what we call limbo state. And the limbo state is because the universe is saying, could you please take care of you before you ask us to bring something big into your life? Because you're not taking care of you, there's no way you can do this thing that you're asking to do. So we're going to block it for you as a protection, because we love you. Figure your stuff out and take responsibility for stop jumping in other people's stuff. Stop being nosy. Okay? Stay in your autonomy. Stay in your energy field. You see someone going through stuff, you wish them blessing. They're going to come out of it. Things are going to get better. Power is going to come to them. Everything's going to work out. Get back into your autonomy. Do not go into the stories. Do not fall into the stories. Do not feel like you have to fix the story so you can feel safe. Okay? Your safety is in your autonomy. It's not in jumping in other people's energy. Understand?
Yeah. 100%.
You do that, and it's going to shift your whole energy dynamics. Now, let me show you the energy of what it feels like when you choose to disconnect your tentacles and stay in your space. And tell me what you feel in your body. I'm going to send it to you now. And how does that feel?
Silly.
Yeah, you feel like a kid again.
Yeah.
Like a little jovial, like excited. I want to have all these creative projects to do. I can open my project box now because now I can focus on me. Yay! Right? And so that is what spirit, remember, God only wants for us to be happy, for us to thrive. We are the ones who go against God. This planet is not supposed to have war. This planet is not supposed to have tyranny. This planet is not supposed to be that way. It's that way because people don't really align with God. They align with their agendas and the fear that they feel they have to deal with to make their agenda is to deal with the fear. Their agenda is not an all-inclusive, I'm choosing to do this job, I'm choosing to do this thing, I'm choosing to do this thing, not just for me, but for all of us. If you read the book Spirit Hacking, you would see in the book it says shamanism is about all inclusivity. It's not about like only you and only this and only that. When you do plant medicine, you have to understand plant medicine can only show you what you're comfortable in seeing. The difference is if you come with me, I will put medicine in your body, but it'll be a little bit more different and it can be a little bit more intense, but it's not from earth. It's from the spirit world. We bring medicine into your bloodstream, and what we do is we show you the things that you would not want to be comfortable with, but you don't realize you have the power to deal with. And so you see how we can bring up those pictures and we can show you those things? There's more things I can do. I can show you. I can take you into every single thing that makes you who you are so you can see the truth of why you were created and what you're actually here to do. But the thing is, human beings feel that plant medicine has become this, like that's why I talk about it in my book. I think plant medicine have served some people, yes, And I think their medicines are serving a purpose, but not all purposes, because people are abusing them. They're using it as a Sunday getaway, a hike from consciousness. Totally. It's become the social hangout.
Totally.
It's the street cred and the popularity examination. You're at a dinner party, and people are like, "Oh my God, I did ayahuasca. Did any of you? Did any of you do ayahuasca?" And there's that one girl on the table, and she's like, "I never did it." And they're like, "Oh."
So true. It's crazy.
It's like that. It's the thing I feel about Burning Man. It's like, you didn't go to Burning Man? I guess you're not cool.
Yeah,
sorry.
You don't know
not in. You don't know what's going on. You need to get woke. You need to get woke.
Yeah.
You get woke. She's like, well, I feel like I'm woke. Well, you're not woke.
Clearly.
Okay, clearly you're not woke. Have you been to Peru? Huh? Have you been to India? Did you stay in the cave for a week in the dark?
Yeah.
No? What do you eat? What do you eat? Well, you're not vegan?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're not woke.
No.
You see? So now you've taken the health and wellness world, the spiritual world, and you've turned it into a gimmick. You turned it into a social cachet of cliche that is based upon the idea of cool, not cool, where true wellness is realness. Some people don't need to go to the gym. Some people just need to walk around their neighborhood once in a while. Some people just need to get up and dance and throw some music on, stretch on the floor and roll around like a child. Some people just need to get a rebounder and just jump up and down. Not everyone needs to do what everyone is doing, and not everyone needs to take ayahuasca, and not everyone needs to go to Burning Man.
Yeah.
And so when we start removing these labels and these conditions, right? We realize that we've turned the health and wellness world, we turned the world of adventure into a task. So now it's like, if you don't do these things, you're not here. Instead of like, I just want to go to Egypt, not because it's like, I need to go get some like special like meditation thing in front of the pyramids. I just want to go to the pyramids. Like, I just want to go, jump off off a cliff into the ocean, not because I'm supposed to do it, because everyone says I'm supposed to do it. It's just because that's what my little boy is telling me to do, because I'm free and I want to have fun. I want to play.
But
right?
Don't you think that sometimes people need permission to do those things? And that's how I see a lot of these things like ayahuasca or Burning Man. It's like people need a reason or permission to step into it. And sometimes they're so locked into their life and they're so locked in that they don't know how to actually take that first step. And somebody comes to them and they're super excited about this experience they have, and it's the thing they know how to share. It gives people permission to at least take a first step. And it may not be all the way home to themselves, but at least they've taken a step.
I think it's great that someone wants to encourage someone to take a step, but that's not what I'm talking about. You can have people inspire you, delight you, and support you in taking steps. Even just someone doing yoga or going to Wanderlust or going to Burning Man is taking a step. But it's the point of, now that you've taken that step, what are you cultivating from that step?
Totally.
And that's what I don't see.
Yep.
I see people go to retreats and do plant medicine, but they don't cultivate themselves afterwards. They come back to their lives and they go back to the same routines.
Totally.
They don't get up in the morning and create a different routine or sleep on the different side of the bed. They don't go in and really say, I'm about, in shamanism, we have this belief that all of the true path of enlightenment is through mutation. Okay? So to mutate means you need to go to the unknown. You need to go to the most uncomfortable thing that would make you so uncomfortable and confront it, right? Which is like lean into your aversion. Actually find the thing that really makes you go, I would never do that. So like I had told this girl the other day, she should take a tango dance class. And she's like, I would never dance tango. And I go, then you should go.
Yeah.
Because these when you do that, you're accessing the unknown, which means now mutation can happen. And when mutation happens, that's how you evolve. That's how reason why we're stuck in this cyclical loop of evolution. I call it the Groundhog's Day mentality of narcissism on planet Earth. is because human beings are stuck in the idea of being liked and loved because they haven't understood that the like and love is the codependency that they keep holding on to. It's the idea that it's okay if someone else does it, so then I should do it too. Versus let me go do something that I want to do just because I want to do it, because I want to have an experience of it.
Yeah.
Like I want, like me having a seizure. I had an experience of it. I was like, oh, okay, this is what a seizure is. It's like, it's not about me trying to fit myself into a box or a label or some identification. It's about how do I get into my realness? You know, like if I don't feel like doing yoga, I'm not going to do yoga. Not when people are like, oh, I didn't go chant with my gohans in and do my Buddha practice and I feel horrible today. This kind of defeats the purpose, right? And so the consciousness of evolution is governed by the level of childlike playfulness you have. So if going to Burning Man opens that childlike playfulness, then fantastic. But then what do you do with that energy? It's a source of energy. So now you got that source of energy. What do you do with it? Or do you wait till the next Burning Man because now you lost it all year? So you're back into the chains. You're back to your chains again. You're a slave again, and you're like, and it's like, okay, the time for freedom is coming. Burning Man's coming back again, and everyone's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get free from the chains. I'm gonna run free. I get to run free.
Are you sure you haven't been?
No, because I am Burning Man.
You are Burning Man.
Okay. And I don't even need to dress like Mad Max and Thunderdome. Okay, I can dress in a nice suit, and I'm crazy. I can do cartwheels down the street. You don't even know. I'll be wearing like a tuxedo. All of a sudden, I jump up and be like, "Wakuza!" You know,
Love it.
you know, you don't know what's gonna come out of me.
I have no idea.
And that's the whole point. The whole point is like be you know, like get into your space of like anticipate my moves. You don't know what I'm gonna do. One second you might see me talking to you about quantum physics. Next second I'm singing the sound of music. You don't know. But I think that's the joy and beauty of life, you know? And I think that when we get into this kind of like trying to fit ourselves into this, I'm a slave, I'm free, I'm slave, I'm free, you become a codependent person. And a codependent person does not become a leader. They become a follower. And I'm not about followers. I'm about seeing leaders be in leadership. I have things to learn from you. I have things to learn from you. I am not all-knowing. I am not the all supreme, you know, who sits in a little bottle, you know, like a genie. I'm not that person. I am a human being who's having experiences. And the more connections and more relationships I build, the greater my experiences with you and everyone else, the more information I gain. But I'm not going to do it by following the herd. I'm going to do it by asking myself, is this something that is right for me, for my intelligence, for my level of freedom?
Damn.
Drop the mic. Or punch it, or I don't know.
Whatever.
I don't know. Spin it around,
spin
make
it
it like a dreidel and spin it. You know, give someone a gift when it lands the right way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do want to ask one thing that we asked some of our Instagram followers and Facebook followers about some questions that they wanted to ask.
For sure.
And one of them that I really loved, which was, who do you look to for inspiration?
So I look to several things I look to, actually. I go to the spirit world a lot. I look at artists, street artists, my team, you know, like here, my publicist is here. I get inspiration from her. I get inspiration from the people, my friends that are around me. Dr. Martin Luther King, you know, I spend a lot of time talking to him on the other side. Talking to my ancestors. I get inspiration from nature. But I would say the most of my inspiration comes from exploration as a child. You know, playing video games and, you know, being with my sticker book, or, you know, playing with action figures, or playing characters with my team. Like me and Tanya will play different characters. We'll put on different character voices. We do a lot of accents. You know, we all like play. I think my true inspiration comes from just constantly playing. I play a lot. And what it does, and I did a workshop once for a lot of big Fortune 500 CEOs, and it was all about just having them come in the room, and, you know, these multi-billionaires and millionaires came in the room, and I just threw a box of toys down and was like, they're like, okay, what are these things, and why are you doing this? I thought we were doing a class on on how to, like, you know, go further in what we're doing in our lives and building our businesses and everything, coming up with new ideas. And I said, yeah, we are. And so I started playing with toys, and they just watched me for a little bit. And then I was like, come on, join in. And then they started joining in, and they started playing. And we went for like an hour and a half of just being kids playing together in a room with guys who were like in their 60s and 70s and like 50s and young entrepreneurs, and just playing with toys. And they had the most amazing time making up stories of like, we got to get this orb to the Calderon, and where's the golden sheriff, all this kind of stuff. And they said, we have no idea how this is going to affect our lives. And then I started getting phone calls, weeks after. One of my friends, who's a huge billionaire in the world, said it completely shifted his whole perspective on business, how he run his companies. One of them decided that he was going to shut down his company and felt like he needed to make it more conscious and more organic. Wow. Different people got different experiences. One of my Wall Street buddies changed his whole operation of how he works with his the people who do the analysts for him and everything, and the way he operates in his office. He used to scream all the time and get angry, and now he talks to them and creates these gatherings of cooperation, and he creates these circles where everyone gets to share their feelings, and it just changed the whole format for them. And it's all they said to me it was the most amazing thing they've ever experienced in their life. Wow. And it all came from just being a kid. And I think the moment if we want to stay close to what God wanted for us, we have to keep playing. Mm-hmm. The moment we start becoming focused on like agendas and bills and this and that and the other, we're falling into the matrix. Mm-hmm. The moment we stop looking at our children and just sitting there in awe and the beauty of watching them scream and run around the room, to making it or getting upset with them because they're making too much noise, is the moment we start becoming too part of the matrix. Mm-hmm. The moment we stop wanting to spend time with our grandparents and hear their beautiful stories and the ways the things that inspired them, we're missing out on life. When we can't stop and look at a flower and see its intricate design, when we can't stop and just look at a tree and lay our back against a tree and feel the coolness of the tree on our spine and the wind blowing, and take time to say hello to the wind when it touches your face versus complain that it's messing up your hair. When we can actually have a conversation on dinner where we're not rushing through our food, where we're actually having conversations, where we can actually reach out and touch someone without the idea that you have to have personal space. This is when we begin to understand what God created for us and the beauty and the majesty that we have. And if we lose that, we lose everything.
Beautiful. I love that. I want to just give it like a moment to hang because it feels good.
Yeah. That's what's up. You are incredibly articulate in your ability, articulate in general, but I find that in this space where we're talking about concepts, as when Vanessa asked the who made God question, a lot of times I think we don't fully have the language to communicate the things that we feel or know to be true. And I just have to commend you. I think that you do a really good job of that. I mean, listening to podcasts that you are on, you can get it over the air. In person, it's very clear, but even over the air, it comes through very well. And I'm just very impressed by that. So I want to give you some serious props for that. But there's something that I've been kind of dealing with in trying to figure out how to grow our business and move in the way that we want to move in the world. And to me, there's like a very clear path that I can see of exactly how to do the things I need to do in a very ego-driven manner. Like I know how I can get it done. But I have this desire that's, brewing from work that I've been doing primarily as a result of plant medicine, because that's just the access that I've had to it, that's showing me that that I have this desire to go forward and create, but not in the way that you know how to do it, in a way that's more, difficult seemingly is the first thing that comes to mind. But it's creating from a more conscious place as opposed to just getting the job done kind of at all costs. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who has thought of this or has come up against this sort of conundrum. And I'm wondering if there's like a piece of advice that you can give that, would help kind of bring these things more into alignment.
Yeah. So, one of the things when you were talking, I heard this voice say to me, "Mike on the go," right? And what I heard was that, like, instead of like putting too much structure on it, like when you start seeing, like, have everything with you, like the moment you start getting into an interesting conversation, like with a shaman or a woman on a bench on a street corner, like it's about bringing the wisdom of the people to a place where people can hear it. Because there's these moments in life where, like, one time I was sitting on a bus stop and there was this man sitting next to me, this old man, and he was just sitting there and he just started talking about stuff. And so I turned to him and I was like, he was talking about something with his daughter. And I turned to him and I go, "Oh yeah, tell me more about your daughter." And he goes, "Oh, I'm so glad you asked. And she's great." And he was talking about this. And then it went into the story about when he was in the war and what it was like for him and all this kind of stuff. And I gained like 10 wisdom gates from him that like helped me in my life. And I think that getting rid of this hard structure and being more playful with it and really kind of being in the moment of like not have to be so perfected, right? Because I get a lot of perfectionism from you. And kind of removing this idea of if it's not perfect, people aren't going to get it. Because I feel like a lot of what you do is you focus too much on what you think the people want. And that's fine if you want to do that. But the thing with that is that people are always going to change. And if you focus on what the people want, or what you think they want, or what they would like, and be afraid that if they don't like it, then you're going to lose everything, then you've already lost it. Because the idea of people is to give them something. It's to give them something that they don't know they want. Right? And that's what Spirit is telling me. Is for you to get out of that perfectionism and get into this place of like, I'm just going to do things as my heart tells me to do it. And I'm going to get excited about it and I'm just going to do it. And people are going to love it because I loved it. And that's what I'm sharing. And that's going to come through. Like if you listen to my podcast, I make up songs, I'll play songs, I'll make little rhymes and little, things and like whatever. I don't care. I mean, sometimes I'll just bawl out, start laughing for like 10 minutes, it's like whatever. Yeah. The point I'm making is that some people are like, "Oh, well, who's going to listen to a podcast when you're just making up songs and you're not even a good singer, Shaman Durek, And I'm like, they're not going to care about that. Yeah. What they're going to care about is the fact that I'm free and it makes them feel free. And they're going to love the fact that I'm just being real and honest and just playful and having people are going to love that. And I chose for them to love that. And so they will love that. And that's the key there. It's that removing that part of like, and remember, your ego is not this evil part of you. Your ego just follows your narrative. Like if I focused on getting, let's say, people with red jackets scare me. And that's what I get scared by a red jacket. And then I do it again. The ego goes, "Oh, so you think red jackets should scare you. Okay." So then it types it in. And then all of a sudden it creates that narrative for me. So it makes me right about that. So then I get more experiences of that fear of the red jacket. So the ego's job is just to be like, look, whatever you say, like when women come to me and say there's no good men in the world, I'm like, your ego's like, okay, fine. I'll send all the horrible men to you. Anything else? Yeah. Right. And so the key is for you to like realize that your ego is just following whatever you've told it to do. Right. Let me ask the council member something. What would be good for him and his business, council members? They said going into documentary work. They said capturing things in life and telling stories and being a storyteller. That's what they said. And making it fun. What else? Creating different platforms for education and for people to be able to learn about the different people and different things that you offer with the different people that you've brought on, different people you believe strongly in, and create a platform where you have some of their information that you have them come in and speak about, and then you offer it to people. This kind of stuff.
Interesting. Huh.
That's what they said.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about maximizing and expanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think honestly, like both of you could create a really cool platform where you have a podcast and then you have certain people you like and you interview them on certain things and then you put that up as like a training thing, like a something that people
like a masterclass.
Yeah,
almost.
that people actually buy and you make money from, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have these like people on the podcast. Okay, so when we just interviewed, everyone loves Shaman Durek. Okay, we're having Shaman Durek come back, and we're going to actually ask Shaman Durek specific questions about specific things that we came up with, and we're going to give you to that class for you for like $50 or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
And it's going to be like how-tos and this thing and that thing, and you create this whole like list of all these different people who do that, you know? And then all of a sudden you're sleeping at night and you have money rolling in the door.
Yeah. It's funny. We've talked about this before, doing some kind of thing like that because we love, I mean, we have our own platform and our own stuff, but like we find that we enjoy so much of what other people are doing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what the Spirit said.
Yeah.
It's a big piece of what we try to do for our community is kind of curate things. We're like, look, everybody's so busy. You know, it's like, hey, look, here's the things that have been really helpful for us or that we think are inspiring and interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
there you go.
Right, but I think
forward,
also too, like for you, my love, is to get out of the mindset of how can I let me explain, let me get a better viewpoint on it. Go ahead. It's almost like, you know, when someone is looking out at the world and they see all these people doing these amazing things, and then they go, oh wow, that's so amazing, that's so amazing, that's so amazing, but then they don't see themselves as amazing. You know, and they need you to boost up a little bit, like really see your amazingness, like who you are and what you represent, and that you are just as important as someone going to a shaman or going to see the Dalai Lama, for instance, right? That you represent that energy, and you need to hold that in your energy space so that Spirit can edify you through that, right? Instead of you looking for examples of it, and then saying, well, if I do this and I do this and I'm successful here and I make money here and I do this and this thing becomes successful and that thing becomes successful, now I can tell myself I'm doing something good.
that sounds familiar.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
So that's what the ancestors just said, right? The tribal ancestors just said, like, it's about you recognizing that without needing that to get you to recognize it. And that's going to basically allow the spirits to come to you and say, okay, now we can edify you and bring all these amazing big opportunities to you, because now it's not you trying to do things to get the worthiness meter. It's like a meter. It's like, okay, I did this now. Okay, it goes up. I did that now. Yeah, it's going up. Okay, going up. Okay, it's going up. Okay. Okay, now I can tell myself I'm amazing today. Okay, it's going up. It's going up. Okay, now I can buy that for myself. Okay, it's going up. It's going up. Okay, now I'm allowed to do that. No. Yeah. It's like, that's who you are every single day. So there's no meter. There's no Richter scale. There's no measuring cup, right? It's you acknowledging your greatness. So let me create an energy for you. So I want you to feel what it feels like so you can see it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to access your codes in your spine. There's 3 codes and 6 codes that tap into your brain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up, I'm just going to go into it. Tell me when you feel all of your accomplishments that you've made from the time that you were a child to where you are now, moving through your body, and you begin to smile at them.
No.
Good. And tell me when it becomes stronger. And tell me when it becomes even stronger, where you begin to go into uncontrollable laughter of every time you took things way too seriously.
Okay.
And tell me when you feel that laughter increasing, where you begin to laugh with all the elders.
Okay.
And it increases to 2,000. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. And tell me when you feel yourself laughing yourself into enlightenment. 7,000. 8,000.
Oh boy.
9,000, 10,000, 11,000. And tell me when the elders have you laugh so much into enlightenment that you begin to go higher and higher into the higher realms of truth and light, and laugh yourself all the way into the heavenly realms. 12,000, 13,000, 14,000, 15,000. And tell me when you feel the electricity from heaven coming into your body and shocking your body with uncontrollable laughter at 16,000. Shocking your body with uncontrollable laughter at 17,000. Shocking your body with uncontrollable laughter at 18,000. Shocking your body with uncontrollable laughter and enlightenment at 19,000. Shocking your body with uncontrollable laughter at 20,000 with enlightenment. Shocking your body with uncontrollable laughter at 21,000. And 22,000. Shocking your whole body at 23,000 with uncontrollable laughter. Shocking your whole body with uncontrollable laughter at 24,000. Shocking your body with uncontrollable laughter at 25,000. And tell me when you feel the laughing Buddha descending into your body.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Good. And tell me when you're transported to the laughing Buddha that was Lord Siddhartha when he was in a state of laughter. When he saw the Maya and the whole system and began to laugh at the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Good. And then tell me when you feel the shock waves moving through your body and making your muscles move and increasing your powers. Good. And tell me when you feel the medicine from the African elders, root medicine from the earth that opens up your heart and brings the warm fire from your heart. Good. And tell me when you begin to hear the voices of your spirit guides telling you all the beautiful things about you and your thoughts. And tell me when it becomes stronger and they begin to tell you more. And tell me when you begin to hear them telling you what path to take and what's going to bring you the most joy. Good. And then feel the energy that's coming in from the four archangels, Angel Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, showing you how easy life can be if you surrender into the will of God. Tell me when you can feel the energy moving through your body. Mm-hmm. And how good it feels. Good. And do you want voice recognition to be able to hack your system when you need to?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that. Tell me when you feel the buzz around your body.
Oh.
Good. Tell me when it becomes stronger. Mm-hmm. Good. And let's practice with your powers. Go ahead and take your hands like this. Put them in front of you. Say electricity.
Electricity.
Good. Do it with your eyes open, because in shamanism we keep our eyes open unless we're traveling somewhere.
Electricity.
Good. Now say increase electricity to 5,000.
Increase electricity to 5,000.
You see, we human beings are superhumans. We've been locked down from our powers for centuries. That is the reason why I chose to come back to Earth. was to assist and help this process. Good. Now say magnet.
Magnet.
Say increase magnetic energy to 5,000.
Increase magnetic energy to 5,000.
Say reverse magnet.
Reverse magnet. Okay.
Say ground me to the earth and connect me to the mother tree in the area.
Ground me to the earth. Connect me to the mother tree in the area.
Say put me into a meditative state with eyes open and connect me into the mother tree's wisdom.
Put me into a meditative state with eyes open. Connect me into the mother tree's wisdom.
Say take me in deeper and connect us in a relationship.
Take me in deeper and connect us in a relationship.
How does that feel?
Still.
Yes. Now say download the wisdom of the mother tree into my body and interpret it for me.
Download the wisdom of the mother tree into my body and interpret it for me.
And what is the mother tree telling you?
Be calm.
Yes. Say take me in deeper.
Take me in deeper.
Ground me deeper to the earth.
Ground me deeper to the earth.
How does that feel?
It's like I'm home.
Yeah. Say, take me to deep root.
Take me to deep root.
How does that feel?
I don't even know how to describe it.
Deep root is like when you think of a Jedi, and a Jedi is learning to focus its mind. Now watch this. Now that you're in deep root, say, expand my spirit into this room.
Expand my spirit into this room.
See how much bigger you've become? When I train my students to learn how to be aware, I train them in deep root. It's the old African way. And then you expand their consciousness beyond the perimeter of their body, and then further out, and then further out. And then you teach them how to connect into all the souls that are in that expansion and go into their thoughts and emotions and feelings. And you begin to learn how to access different frequencies of intelligence.
I can see that.
Say, open the stargate above my head.
Open the stargate above my head.
Pull the electricity from the outer rim of this galaxy.
Pull the electricity from the outer rim of this galaxy.
And shock my body with it.
Shock my body with it.
Feel that? So much to learn.
Yeah.
So little time.
Indeed. But what's time, right?
Exactly. But I'm sure if you make more time in the future, we'll have more time together, all of us,
Yeah.
to learn more shamanic things. That's the only thing that I'm annoyed a little bit about the shamans who have been passing out plant medicine to the Westerners. They're not teaching them about their powers. They're just giving them medicine because they're afraid of conflict. Most shamans, I said I was going to write a book called The Watered Down Shaman, because in old times, shamans were not afraid of conflict. Now shamans have become afraid of conflict. So they keep themselves hidden. They don't want to deal with your issues, like you're getting mad at them or not believing in them or having some kind of like calling them a charlatan or this or that, the other. They don't want to deal with that. So what they do is they just give you the plant medicine. You go on your journey. If you ask them questions, they'll give you little hints in there, but they don't show you how to activate the ancient spiritual powers that we all shamans learn when we're children, which is unfortunate. Because think of all the people who come from plant medicine, and if they were learned how to be able to create a magnetic charge in their body and attract money to themselves, or open up doorways of consciousness that they didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Raise their serotonin, increase their mitochondria, change their heart rate. Learn to speak to other beings, speak to their ancestors, see their multidimensional choices they can make. Like when you see movies like Sherlock Holmes, when he walks in and he sees all the different things that are going on, and then he knows if he makes that move and does that thing and does that thing and does that thing, this is going to be the outcome. We human beings have that capability. That's how I survived when I was in Israel when the bombs were going off. I mapped my consciousness through the city and figured out, oh, and when the coup broke out in Turkey, I was like, oh, okay, tanks coming down the street, this, that, that, that. I saw all different aspects of myself making choices and what the outcomes could have been based on the choices, and I chose the right one to get myself out of it. We have these powers and much more.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time and obviously the great care and intentionality that you put into every moment. Because that's what I'm really left with here, is that you didn't just show up because it's a podcast and you're like, it's on the books or whatever. Like, you showed up all the way. And that is what I think is so profound for me in this moment, is that you're here to really show up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so thank you for that.
That's a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Incredible.
Tell us where people can find the book, and also people who are hungry for this, like what just happened here with Adam and I, like people are hungry for that. I know that you can't take on the entire world as a client. So how do we get to folks who can help us with this stuff?
So I'm still taking privates, one-on-ones, but they book up really quickly. People can go to shamandurek.com and get involved in the Shaman School, where I teach them how to access their shamanic abilities and power so they can be not codependent and be masters into themselves. You can also connect with me on Instagram. I do workshops, and we have a lot of new cool implementations of things that we're creating on our team to give more information to people. We have a webinar, and we do have a newsletter that comes out where we give people amazing hacks and things that they can do in their life to shift and make their life easier.
Beautiful. And where can folks find the book?
You can go to any bookstore, Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, you name it. It's everywhere. And it's available worldwide. So it's in Russia, it's in Portugal, it's in England, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Germany, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Turkey, and Spain.
I just want to end with saying I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I love you, darling. You're welcome. I love you.
I love you. Beautiful.
Okay, what a ride.
What a ride.
If you were hearing this,
And then
you've been out and around the moon and back.
What a long, strange trip it's been.
What a long, strange trip it's been. Yes.
We hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. We are so excited to be all the way through our 200th episodes. This is 201. We are headed towards 300. And if this episode has made an impact, or any of the episodes have made an impact for you, and you've enjoyed this podcast, we would love, love, love for you to leave a 5-star review, write a review, and subscribe to the podcast. You know, we are on a mission in this next 100 episodes to really grow this show, and we can't do it without your help. And it really means a lot to us when we see you guys share it, or when these things have an impact on your life. And if it is, then we just ask that you give it some love.
Yeah. And it's easy to do.
It's easy to do.
So I want to talk, though, and you don't have to share your experience if you don't want to, but as you guys heard in this thing, both of us got a little like shamaning session.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where we were being treated, or I don't know what the word is for it. Probably not treated from like a technical medical perspective. Like, you probably can't say treatment. He probably doesn't use treatment as a term for what's going on. But we had our
we're being worked on. Yeah.
Yeah. Had our little sessions. And so I wanted to just talk about like what that was like, because it probably sounds really weird just listening, to this whole thing of like, laugh harder, turn your laughter up to 11, and like this whole thing. But there was definitely something going on.
Yeah.
Like there without a doubt, I felt that there was something as I laughed and as I did these weird things with my hands and like feeling the energy between them. There was something happening, you know? And so I've like reflected on that quite a bit because to a large degree, I am a call bullshit on this kind of stuff person, you know, but like there was something to be felt there. And it was really interesting, you know, it was an interesting thing to go through and like in reflecting on it and trying to like have an understanding of what that experience really was like for me or what it means to me, you know, like what has changed about my world now that I've done this? Really nothing, you know, to be is the answer. But there's like, I was sort of in this place of feeling something, but then like not quite feeling everything that it seemed like he wanted me to feel. And then feeling like, oh no, it's not working. I don't want him to feel like it's not working. So then like feeling it more, you know what I mean? To kind of like almost play along. I mean, I don't know, play along is not really the right word, but it feels kind of like that, right? You're like, oh no, I want this to work, you know? And so we were in this kind of whole dynamic of going along and going along and going along and feeling this thing start to escalate. And then somewhere in the back of my mind, wondering like, am I making all of this up or is it really happening? You know? And like, you know, I've had experiences like this in plant medicine, right? Where it's a lot easier to dive into it because you're like, dude, I'm under the influence of a really permission. Powerful psychedelic. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I've landed on is that like you can, because we know you can access those realms through breath work, through meditation, through all of these things, right? So it's like, why wouldn't you be able to be walked through it in a session, you know? And I think for me, it was just hard to flip that switch and really let go into what was going on because I didn't have necessarily like, you know, I don't know, the permission, I guess, to do it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, well, I think it speaks a lot to your personality, right? And generally speaking, you're sort of the first foot forward is the foot of a skeptic, right? Like you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to do this, and so like for me, I'm like, well, of course that's how you responded to it. This is how you responded to our whole life. But like, you know, in the end, it really is just like that easy. Like what I see about this situation is that it's just so easy to access these realms, to go to these places, and that all it requires is some permission. And it doesn't even require a great amount of like it's great you're with Shaman Durek and he's obviously versed in this and experienced with it, and that's beautiful, but like you have access to this yourself every single day and every single moment, and sometimes we just need someone to remind us of that. And for me, it's just kind of like he's just inviting you to explore that possibility, and like all that you can do is just ask yourself, do I want to keep the wall of skepticism up, or do I want to be curious about what's potentially in this?
Yeah.
And what can be discovered through this experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And if you want to see the experience in real time, I actually have video of it, and it will be on Instagram because I couldn't help but just pull out my phone mid-stride and actually film some of the stuff that's going on in the room. So if you want to check it out, you can go to our Instagram and you can see the video. Maybe I'll put it in our podcast highlights. So depending on when you hear this, you can check it out and get the real deal.
So what was the situation for you?
To be honest, I kind of don't remember. It's been a couple months now. So I just remember thinking, you know, that it just felt really good to me to request or to have assistance, to have support. And that's what it just felt like to me. It was like, this is really nice support right now in the room for what I'm going through. And he spoke to some things that really resonated and rang true for me. But the biggest feeling for me was just like, oh yeah, I am supported.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the deal. Like
Yeah.
you get it from that guy, you know, it's
Yep.
like he's got a really solid hug. He's like
Yeah.
a really warm person, charismatic. He's got a whole thing going.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So check him out. He's at Shaman Durek, at Shaman Durek. Easy for me to say, on Instagram. And of course, you can check him out at all the links that he talked about. And yeah, you know, just tap into some of the magic that he's sharing and see how it feels to you.